Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I brought all three of my favorite meditation books with me today, so I thought we would just get right into it. All right, let's start with A Year of Positive Thinking, Daily Inspiration, Wisdom, and Courage by Cindy Spiegel, and then I will get into one of the Melody Baby meditations. All right, let's get into it. So today is July 8th. Hopefully it's a little bit longer than just one sentence today, which seems to be the case. Oh, it is. Well, it's actually a quote. And the quote is by, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Sonia Lyubomirsky, quoting Lee Ross, The How of Happiness. And the title of this is Optimism is Not Self-Deception. Optimism is not about providing a recipe for self-deception. The world can be a horrible, cruel place, and at the same time, it can be wonderful and abundant. These are both truths. There is not a halfway point. There is only choosing which truth to put in your personal foreground. And I really, really like this meditation. You know, it's or quote or whatever. It's really about perception, I think, you know? And perception is something that, interestingly enough, I don't know that I really truly understood until the last couple years. And really it came as a result of me taking ownership over my part in situations that would happen with me and other people, or things that had happened with me and other people in the past. And looking at that situation and saying, what is my part in this, you know? I think in many situations that we go through in life where we feel wronged, and we feel like this person did this to me, and this situation should have turned out differently, and it can be a person or organization or a situation, whatever, that, you know, we thought should happen differently. And for me, the understanding of the definition of resentment is that it is an unfulfilled expectation. That a resentment is when I thought a certain situation or a person should have ended up in a way that it didn't end up. And so I'm bitter, angry, holding a grudge for as long as I choose to. And that's what a resentment is to me today. In recovery, we call resentments the number one offender. It's the number one thing that gets people back to drinking and using drugs again, because we hold on to these resentments so tightly and we believe in them so truly, you know. I'm sure there's been things that you've been through in your life. And typically in these situations, I'm not talking about really, really deep-seated things. I'm talking more about, you know, superficial, surface level things, that arguments we've had with people, or where we just feel like people have wronged us. But it could even be like a breakup or a situation like that, you know, where we feel like I didn't really do a whole lot wrong, but I still don't understand, and yet we hold on to it for years and years and years, you know, and at the expense of our own true happiness, I think. And so it's a lot about perception. It's a lot about looking at a situation and realizing, you know, when people say, well, there's two sides of the truth, and then we've heard lately, you know, when people say, and I've even said it myself, well, there's three parts of the truth. There's their side, and then the truth in the middle. The reality is there's many sides to any situation depending on where you stand and how you look at it, you know? Have you ever been like talking to a friend before, and you're like talking about a situation that maybe you've talked about over and over and over again, and they're tired of hearing about it, and you finally ask them what do they really think about it, and they give you an opinion that kind of shocks you and maybe isn't on your side, and you're like, well, really, like, I never looked at it that way, you know? And I have said in the past, and I really truly believe this, that a real friend is somebody that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And I've had many of those moments with my best friend, you know, before, when I'll say, well, what do you think about this situation and whatever? And she'll say, well, you know, I think that you're looking at this in a different situation. Have you ever looked at it from this point of view? Or maybe why this person is hurt, or, you know, whatever. And I'm like, you know, I'd never seen it that way before. In doing work on ourselves and being introspective and trying to have insight, it's hard to do that often without the help of somebody else, without the help of a best friend or a partner that will tell you the truth, you know, without the help of a counselor or a professional, or with, like, for myself, a sponsor in recovery, where people can actually tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and not surrounding yourself by a bunch of yes people that will tell you what they think that you need to hear. I've never really grown a lot from people just always telling me what they thought I wanted to hear, if that makes sense, you know? And I think this is why it's important to have people around us that tell us the truth, is because then you know, like, if you have somebody around you that's always just telling you that you're right, no, that person's wrong, you're right, if they always tell you that, then you really don't know what the truth is, because they're never going to tell you when you're not right in a situation, right? But if you have people and you surround yourself with people that challenge you, or maybe try to help you look at things from a different point of view, or see your part in it, right? Then you know that when they're being honest with you about a situation that like they say, no, they're wrong, like you're in the right with this, then you know they're being honest to you in that moment because they've been honest with you all along. I've never really understood the point of having people be surrounded by a lot of yes men. I don't know that it gets them anywhere. I think typically the fact that people are just tell people what they want to hear is because A, they're not that emotionally invested to begin with, that they really don't want to have the fight that it's going to be worth. And so what that means is when people say that they're surrounded by yes men, or if we say that about other people, what it really means is they're surrounded by people that really don't care about them on an emotional level, because if you do care about somebody on an emotional level, then you would tell them from time to time what they needed to hear to help them grow into the best human beings that they can possibly be. I think looking at perception, it can be a tricky thing. I think from our own point of view, often it's hard to look at a situation or something that's happened to us and see our part in it. I have had many situations in my life where I thought, I just really don't have a part in this. Like, I really can't see my part in it. And sometimes my part in it has been that I am choosing to hold on to it. And I'm choosing to continue to allow it to affect my life on a daily basis. I'm allowing to let people rent space in my head for free. Sometimes my part in it is that I owe somebody an amends or an apology that I didn't even recognize that I owed them that, And I think, this comes back a little bit to when I made amends to my dad and my stepmom. I knew to make an amends for the attorneys and that they got me and the treatment that they paid for and all that kind of stuff and the hurt that I had caused them. But, in doing inventory with my sponsor and preparing to do that, make that amends, one of the things I realized was there have been so many countless nights that my dad had no clue where I was, that he stayed up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when he had to work the next day, worried out of his mind where I was. Well, I have a huge part in that. I have all the part in that. That's my doing. Yes, my dad could have just gone to sleep, but he cared. He loved me. He was concerned about me. I remember one time, being in jail and asking my dad to come and get me. My dad said no, because tonight I know where you're at, and I know that you're safe, and then he hung up the phone. But, I look back on that, and I didn't even have any conception of, how much I was really hurting my dad at that time when I was using out there. I had no idea, When people would say things to me like, you really have a problem with your drinking and your using, I'd say, no, you have a problem with my drinking and using, but it really doesn't affect you. It should only affect me. Well, what I didn't realize was I was hurting all of these people around me. But see, from my perception, okay, my self-centered, selfish perception that I had back then, it was all about me, right? It was nothing to do with you. Like, your your problems paled in comparison to looking at mine, right? It's like, when we're in active using, when we're in active addiction, it's like if somebody passes away or we go to a funeral, we're not trying to help. We're not trying to suit up and show up and be the best versions of ourselves that we can be and be somebody else's support. We're not there just to be of service to others. No, we make it about us, okay? We have the strongest relationship with that person. If you knew what kind of pain I was going through, if you've ever been to a funeral before where there's an alcoholic or an addict, I'm telling you right now, they are the most important person in the room, even more important than the person that passed away. And that's the truth, okay? That's how we act. That's how we behave. That's how we are in this world. So when we get sober, or even if we don't have substance abuse issues, and we start looking at things from a different perception, right? It's like, what's the movie? Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, when he has them all stand on the desk and look at the room from a different point of view. When we start looking at the world in a different kind of way, right? It's a paradigm shift that we have. It's like, oh, wow. Have you ever had those moments, those literal moments of clarity where you're like, I never thought of it that way. I never saw it that way. Oprah calls them aha moments, life-saving aha moments, right? I think sometimes when we're willing to step back and see the world through somebody else's, point of view, I think often then we can see that maybe our perception is not always correct. And maybe our perception is, a little bit different. It's like in the book, in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, when Atticus is talking to Scout, Jean Louise, about the boy at school that she got in a fight with, and he says, you don't truly know a person until you walk around on in their front porch in their shoes for a while, and it's true. It's like, maybe if you're going through something right now, and I know that this is hard because we want to be right, and we feel vindicated, and we feel right, but maybe just for a moment, allow yourself 5 minutes to see what it looks like from their point of view, to see what it looks like if they felt like you had done them wrong, and see if maybe in any kind of possible way you owe somebody an amends, or you need to right a situation that's been wrong, that you have felt that you were in the wrong all this, or that somebody had wronged you all this time. Maybe it was you actually that have a bigger part in this than you thought. I know I have been that person before when I stood back and I looked at a situation and realized, wow, maybe it wasn't all my fault, but maybe I do have a part in there. Maybe I can start that healing process. This whole idea of this tit for tat that we go for in the world, where I'll apologize to them when they apologize to me, or I'll clean up my side of the street where does it start, and I can remember, back in the day, friends of mine being like, I don't respect somebody until they respect me first. And I always thought to myself, I thought that was, and I kind of acted the same way. But I can remember thinking to myself, well, isn't that kind of funny, because who respects who first? Where does that start, Today, I'm okay with that. If I have to be the person to take responsibility and own my side of the street, I'm fine with that if we can start the healing process. And if the healing process doesn't start, at least I'm on my way to being a better version of myself that I could be. And at least I've cleaned up my side of the street and I can move on with my life. And if that person chooses to stay bitter, angry, resentful, and hold a grudge, that's their business. But I'm going to be happy, joyous, and free either way. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.